each individual whom you talk to is completely different from another individual. And
Absolutely.
his reporting manager also is a completely different person than the previous reporting manager of a different function. So it's very fascinating to understand organization and their culture. So many people I meet on an everyday basis and in every interaction I ask myself, what did I learn from this individual? What did I learn about this individual, and what did I learn from this individual, which which is very valuable to me. So BioBrain is the company which is based out of London and has a neuroscience lab in Bucharest. That's where, and it's led by our colleague Dr. Anna Iorga. She's our chief neuroscientist. So let me ask you a question, Arun. Do you think people make rational decisions, or do you think people make emotional decisions?
So great afternoon, audience. It's a beautiful Thursday afternoon for a change because normally I have been holding most of the conversations on Sunday morning because that's the time which mostly suits many people. And I was just wondering before beginning this conversation that people talk about law of attraction and things like that, things similar to this. For some reason, we always feel that there are some people with whom our paths keep on crossing. Pretty often for some reason. And for some reason, there are other people with whom our paths cease to cross. And for some reason, you also might have seen Harsh, and of course, the audience also can correlate with this when I say that there are people with whom we keep in touch, and there are people with whom I don't know. It must have been many decades since we last spoke to. And I'm so happy to be talking to Harsh. I spoke with Harsh first, I recall, I think around a decade ago, when she had just joined Cheragni Consulting Private Limited as the director. I think it was 2009 when she joined, and I think I must have spoken with her at around during 2011 2012. I think those were the years. And
True.
then I also happened to have some telephonic conversations with Harsh. And in one of those conversations, Harsh was attending the conversation from USA. So I knew that I'm talking to somebody who is a globe trotter, and she keeps on working from across the world, something which many people dream of, Harsh. So you are living a life which many people dream of. And I mean it. I'm pretty sure many people from corporates who are going to watch this conversation, who might be watching this conversation, are going to correlate with what I just said. Harsh, welcome to this heart-to-heart conversation. Thank you so much for taking out time. Audience, let me share with you a bit about Harsh. I'm pretty sure many people might already be knowing her. I think there is no CXO from Pune, from outside Pune. I think there are many people who know her. Harsh is the director of Cheragni Consulting Private Limited. The name itself is very interesting. I think I had asked Harsh during my first conversation, and of course, I'm going to ask Harsh. Be ready for this question. Is going to come to you to
Sure.
just tell our audience a bit about the name, which is very interesting. Harsh has been there as the director of Cheragni Consulting Private Limited since January 2009, almost more than 14 years. I think close to 15 years now. And Harsh also was the director in CEO Clubs India, Chief Executive Officers Club India, between July 2020 and April 2022. And to say a bit about Teragni, I think it's a very interesting, very unique company because this company is in the field of human engagement strategy and implementation as well. So I think for those people who want advisory, here is Teragni talking, giving them advice on how to enhance engagement level, not only with people but also with customers. So there are two different aspects of engagement here. And those companies which are looking for implementation, so here is Teragni and its team, which can also work with people, do the hand holding and work with people so closely that things get implemented. I think I've already done half of the work, which I think initially at least Harsh was supposed to do. So Harsh, welcome to you.
Thank
And
you.
welcome. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a pleasure for me to have you. I know that you have been one of those people who have been working with very closely with some of the best brains in the field of corporate. Harsh, how did it feel? And before that, I think let me come to Teragni the name. Then we'll talk about the second question. Let me not reveal the second question. coming back to the first question, Teragni, the name itself is very interesting, very, very inspiring. You had told me, would you like to share once again for the sake of audience? And once again, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over, Arun. And it's a pleasure to be there with you talking about ourselves. It's always fun to talk about yourself, your company that you're passionate about. So, it can be a conversation that you see a lot of smiles on my face all the time because of that. So, thank you for
Absolutely.
that smileful experience. Yeah, so Teragni was founded in the most simplistic way, and we felt that let's have a name of the organization which actually defines our characteristics.
Yeah, yeah,
So it emerged from there, and we are a group of people who are completely different from each other and bring
yeah,
very complementing areas together. So
yeah.
Terra is Latin for earth, and Agni is Sanskrit for fire. So
Wow.
we connect disparate dots. We connect we are multidisciplinary, and we are very grounded and practical like the earth, and we are very fiery, passionate like the fire. So that's Teragni Consulting for you.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Harsh, I always say to people that I see not one but many inspiring stories, or you can slash books. Also, we can say it, we can call these as books as well. I see many inspiring books within people. Every person has got lots and lots of inspiring stories. Just that, and when I say inspiring, it's not something which is only going to inspire people. Actually, people can take some actions based on these inspiring stories and can actually see the world changing for the best of reasons. It's just that when we talk to people, we actually do not often look at people as the sources of all the knowledge which we're looking for in on YouTube and videos and this and that. It's all there. Once we talk to people and have some deeper conversation, I think from our life stories, all the inspiring messages and all the action points will come up. Very nice. So I just thought of sharing because I'm showing some books in the background. It's just to indicate one point that audience, everybody who is watching this video has got some very inspiring stories. Just that we need to listen to them, and we just need to maybe at times convert some of these story into books and maybe videos, and of course, as this example goes, into heart-to-heart conversations as well. So great.
Right.
So Harsh, when you look back on your journey, the second question which I had interrupted midway, when you look back on your journey and life and journey, which are those initial few thoughts which come to your mind? Because we are listening to a woman. So people talk a lot about DEI. Certainly, we'll also talk a bit about around this also, because you have been in the field where talent has to be identified and talent has to be matched with some of the best of companies which are looking for the best of talents. Which are those initial thoughts which come to your mind when you look back on your journey? Yeah.
So good question. When you suggested that we have a chat on our journey, I think that was one of the thoughts that the reflection automatically happened, and we
Yeah,
went
yeah,
down the memory lane. So I'm just when I see my background, I started in a hardcore sales role. I was
yeah,
amongst the very few women who was in the field sales function in my time. Then from there, I came into the field of executive search. And executive search was not at all known at that point in time. And again, very few brands, very few names in that space.
yeah,
Again, being one of the women leaders, being one of the few people in the manufacturing sector driving this aspect of business, and with a global brand which
yeah,
pioneered the field of executive search. It was an absolute delight and pleasure to spend more than a decade and a half in that space. And
yeah,
then came the biggest transition of my life. And I realized that there's so much of learning that I had received of seeing employees, leaders being accepted by a company, being rejected by a company, being nurtured and grown by a company. And I felt that there was a huge amount of know how and value addition that I could provide, beyond just giving them the best suited opportunity for them in a corporate role. It was to bring them to enhance their capabilities. That
yeah,
gave a big shift to my career. And from a search professional, I also became a performance coach, and I did a lot of work in that area. And that's where Teragni was born. And when Teragni was born, it has gone through such huge evolutions that what
yeah,
Teragni is today and what we started off is miles apart. So today and my second milestone in Teragni has been to be a part of a group of such lovely multidisciplinary people who drive behavior shifts within employees or within customers to achieve specific business outcomes. And it's a huge, interesting, dynamic world on an everyday basis. And each of these milestones have helped me evolve as a person, as a professional, and the it has been so much fun, and I don't think it's yet over. So there's still probably the same number of years more to go, if not more.
This is awesome. This is awesome, Harsh. So, Harsh, you said that I think it's something which was a revelation to me also as well. I think you might have told me earlier during our first conversation. So, it's very pleasing for me to know that you actually came from the field of sales. Because I recall that even while working in companies like Tata Blue Sky Steel, when we think of sales, I used to just think of one lady who used to work in sales in Mumbai office. Otherwise, it's all gentlemen, gentlemen's field who used to believe that they are the people who are rocking salesmen. How did it feel to you when you yourself have come from sales, and then when you talk to candidates, they are trying to oversell themselves for a particular position? I'm pretty sure you must be knowing that, hey, this guy is trying to sell himself more. And what kind of a smile or what kind of feelings you get when you see somebody who's trying to oversell?
So, you know,
As I
if
said, it's going to be free flowing conversation. These questions are not there. Let's have some fun
right,
and see.
right. So it's really nice, no? See, when you have a marriage proposal, you would want to put your best foot forward. When you are aspiring for a role or an organization or a brand that is your wish list, you would want your best foot forward, and you would want your recruiting partner or your search partner to represent you in the most beautiful way. So
Yeah.
absolutely, they would all want to do that. However, over a period of time, the relationship has developed in between the people that we work with, either as candidates or as leaders who have to grow to become better, to be
Yeah.
a trusting advisor. And that focus of being a trusted advisor differentiates you then, and the candidate sees you as a partner and somebody who will help him not only get the job but also understand the pros and cons and grow. And also, when you are seen as a coach who really is caring, and not only caring, deeply involved in the success of the individual that you're working with, then that honesty and that transparency or that trusted feeling takes you to a different high altogether. So
Mm.
today I'm not able to say that people only sell themselves. I think people want partners who will help them get to know their blind spots, help strengthen them, and know where they will succeed and where they will fail. So everybody likes to read the future, right? And a
Mm.
consulting role is like something that you read the future. So they like to trust you, and this relationship gets built. So I'm sorry, but I don't have any funny anecdotes of somebody trying to sell themselves. But yeah, this is where I am.
I'm pretty sure that while watching this conversational video, many people might actually think of some of the anecdotes, some of the experiences from their life when they might have tried selling their candidature to you, because I know it's going to be seen by many corporate professionals.
So
Yeah.
I had to learn interviewing very well. So much so that now probably it's reduced a little, but earlier when I was at the peak of my search career, my
Yeah.
husband and my family, whenever we used to meet in social gatherings, they used to say, "You can't converse normally, is it? I mean, do you have to interview everybody you meet?" I mean, so the normal conversation also used to sound like an interview. I had gotten so used to interviewing. So I had to learn how to converse socially again. So that
I'm pretty
was
sure Mr. Pillai must have been happy that you learned all these, ways of interviewing people after waiting, not before waiting. Otherwise, he also would have gone through all kind of questions.
oh yeah, we
Great, Harsh.
started very early, so he didn't have a choice.
Great, Harsh. I also see that you have been the alumni of the Management Development and Strategic HR programs of IIM Ahmedabad, a result coach and a certified independent board director. So very interesting result coach. And of course, I think you may like to share, maybe not now, after some time, some of the experiences while working with some of these IIM Ahmedabad and some of these institutions.
Happy to. Happy to.
Great. So I see one thing. I think we spoke about selling. I think I do not actually. conquer with this world, a word called selling. Because selling is nothing but, I think, as you rightly explained, selling is all about looking for somebody challenges. Somebody is looking for a good candidate who has got the mix, who has got the match with the culture and the values of the organization and the positional requirements. Because only in that case the match actually works and people work in some of these companies for longer. Because we spoke about Mr. Shirish Kulkarni, for example, before starting this conversation. In today's world, you hardly see professionals who have been there in a company while having a very mutual enriching association for almost 17 years. I've seen
Correct.
many senior people who join big names and they only keep on changing companies after 1 year and 4 months and 1 year and 5 months. So I think I'm pretty sure it must have been a very big responsibility for you to actually see that you get people matching against the positional requirements in such a manner that they actually work for longer. Would you like to say something as how do you play this role of one of the most challenging roles of being the matchmaker when it comes to matching talent with the positions which some of the best names across the country are looking for? Expectations are pretty huge from the companies and from professionals.
True. True. So it's very fascinating, first of all,
Yeah,
because every human being is completely different, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even if you're working for the same customer and you're working for a variety of different positions for them in the leadership role, each individual whom you talk to is completely different from another individual. And
Absolutely.
his reporting manager also is a completely different person than the previous reporting manager of a different function. So it's very fascinating to understand organization and their culture,
Yeah.
then the individual reporting managers or hiring managers or leaders and their background and their way of thinking, and then trying to figure out the people that we're trying to identify or the leaders that we're trying to identify and match the organizational culture, the reporting managers, chemistry, and the energy and the drive and direction of the individual himself. So it's really nice, complex, and fascinating. I'd love to share an example over here. Somehow I land up working, or I used to land up working on senior positions where an individual was with a company for at least 15 years or more.
Yeah.
So I always had the mandate that I had to bring out a person who was in the top 5% of their current employer. And I had to convince this individual to come to my client, who at times were great brands and who at times were startups and who at times were looking for talent from large companies to grow better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And invariably we would land in a situation wherein everything was available in the currently employing company, and there was
Mm.
hardly anything available in the next employer that was hiring the candidate that we
Mm.
were presenting. So I think it really was important for us to understand, or for me to understand, what is it that drives this individual and how does his life's goal, how are his life's goal met in my new customer. And for that I had to really need to know the depth of my client. And
Yeah.
we were very fortunate that we operated in a retained search environment in when I was a part of a global multinational, and we could bring those practices in Teragni as well. And to be considered in the same retained format as any international player for a startup like Teragni was a
Yeah.
great achievement. And
Wow.
that relationship building, that understanding of the business depth of our customers helped us marry the direction in which both individuals had to grow. So besides
Mm.
cultural fitment and besides the usual functional fitment, it was really, where do I see myself and can this company take me there? And can I be valued there? And will I receive the same value like I'm getting in my current employer? And when we married those topics, the
Yeah.
success was phenomenal. You have really pointed out a great point, Arun. Remember, just few couple of years ago, we've gone through a huge, great resignation wave everywhere, right?
Mm.
The
Mm.
compensations tripled and I don't know, quadrupled, etc. And when the services sector started growing, people started changing jobs frequently, unlike in
Yeah.
the manufacturing sector. But I tell you, maybe I'm old school. Maybe, there's just little bit of black remaining, rest are all gray. But I truly believe that if you find synergies, and as you are growing as an individual, and if the organization that you're working with is able to provide you that variety and challenges, it isn't really necessary for you to look outside. Yeah.
Mm,
But
mm.
when you look outside, you're clearly looking outside because there is something in your organizational context which is not possible today. And therefore
Absolutely.
you're looking. And if you can find that, then it is magic. Then the next organization takes you for the next 10 years. So it is
Yeah.
Perani Executive Search's promise that we will
Mm.
always find you leaders who will stay long with you. You just have
Longer.
to make sure that you also give them the rotations that they require.
Awesome, awesome. First of all, I think going by your smile and the vibrance, that energy in your voice, I know that you are one of the youngest people. I think because I always believe in the fact that it's all about thinking process, and actually, otherwise also you're pretty young. I'll say, because I have seen many people who are 30 years and they speak like they are 60 or 70 years. They are old people. They already have seen life, and there's nothing more for them to explore in life. And there are people who are 60, 70, 80, and I have seen, because I've been working with some people and they are full of life. They go and play golf and then they come back, because I've been working on book mentoring projects, book writing projects with some people. There are people who are 72 years of age and they are full of life. They are thinking about their childhood days and they are sharing, so that the book becomes all inclusive ones. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing, yes. First, I think you said very important. I think it's very important points. And what I've seen is that while choosing a company, many people, after working in a company for 1 or 2 years, they get a feeling that let me look for salaries. And many people decide to leave a company because of salary. I always tell people, based on the experience which I have got in this, while being in this field for almost 25 years, is do not only look at salary as the driving factor, because I know many people who were looking for salary and then they landed in a company in a hurry. They wanted to make a change just because many other people also were making a change, and they landed in a company where the values didn't match, the working environment didn't make them happy. So I think there are many people. And having said that, there are quite a few people who actually know, who have got the maturity to look at the entire employer value proposition, and then they're happy because they're getting salary, they're getting learning and development opportunities, they're getting challenging projects, they also get rotational opportunities, they've got a good boss, which is a huge boon. Even if somebody is getting a higher salary and somebody gets a feeling that he or she is not going to get a good boss, I think it's better to reconsider and stay back, because I think that's a very important relationship, isn't it? Because you said something which is very important, Harsh. You said that we all are different, we all are unique, and this is absolutely true. Because I've been in the field of one-to-one coaching and writing and speaking. I know for sure that, and I think I said that before beginning this conversation, that I see a very inspiring story within each and every person, be it a bottom performer, be it a top performer. And bottom performer actually can be transformed. If the person has got a bit of hunger and the right coach, he can actually be transformed into at least top 30-40%, if not within top 5%, top 10%. It's possible. So I think what you said is very important. We all are unique. And it's just a matter of the fact whether a person is actually working in the field which belongs to him or her. Whether a person is actually in the field where the frequencies are matching. I've seen many people who are working as CEOs because they are in the field of leading people, because they know nothing other than leading people. If you talk to them on some other subjects, probably they may not be the best of speakers, but they're very good at leading people. I also have seen people who actually are not designed to be a leader. This is absolutely okay, because there are people, we also need people in different functions, no? Mass communications and customer facing departments. So I think it's very important for us to appreciate the fact that we all are unique. And I'm saying this based on my personal experience of having gone through something called vision board exercise, where I personally, yeah, of course, nowadays people are talking about ikigai and all that. So I had done this exercise 2 years before ikigai. So you discover your purpose, your vision, your long-term goals, your talents, your core values, and kind of stuff. And then you put everything on a yellow chart paper, like the background which you see. I did it. It's there with me. So very important point, audience. I think you may like to pause this video, pause this conversation here, take a deep breath in, and just maybe take 10-15 minutes time and write down what is that which comes close to your heart, the purpose, what is the problem in the society or surrounding you, in the world surrounding you, which touches your heart. which are your 5 or 6 talents, which are those areas which make you a unique person, right? The reasons because of which you have been getting maximum compliments since your childhood days, and core values, some of these things. I think people should take some time while trying to, people talk about self-awareness and self-discovery and some of these things. Once you know your actual real being, and if there is a match, there is a kind of, big thing happening. And that's where I think some of the people are able to do a great job, and that's exactly where some of the people are not able to, make it, see it becoming big. Great.
So may
So
I
Harsh,
may I may I share an aspect over here, because you
go
brought
on,
out a
please.
beautiful
Yeah, this
point.
is for the audience to hear you, not me. Go
Yeah.
on.
No, no. So what you're really saying is, the two things that are coming to my mind. The more you speak about purpose, we speak about being purposeful. Okay. So for me, a leader is worth his value in platinum, gold, whatever you call it. Okay. If he is a focused and high energy leader. And for me, the Heike Brook and Sumantra Ghoshal model of focus versus energy is a mantra of my life. So
Wow.
for me, if you want to be and the second aspect on philosophy that you're talking about that I correlate to is, if a person's goal and his self are aligned. This is our topic from behavior science, where we say there has to be
Yeah,
self relevance and there has to be goal relevance. If they're aligned, you will be purposeful. So
absolutely.
for your audience, they need to know what is their self and goal alignment, and how can they be purposeful. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you so much for adding this perspective, Harsh. So, when I spoke about vision board, coincidentally, I spoke about actually, I mean, 6 things, 5 or 6 things, which include purpose, vision, core values, talents, strengths, and goals. Goals are very important. So,
the
purpose and
one
goals both are coming
the,
here.
the one key one that you missed is the
Yeah,
customer.
customer, absolutely. So,
The
so,
customer.
so since I'm
Yes.
talking about self-awareness, I'm not
The
talking about customer,
customer.
but absolutely, absolutely,
We,
absolutely.
Taragni parlance, there is no culture other than a customer centered culture. And there is no organization which can survive if it is not having a customer centered culture. So,
Hmm.
हमारे ये 3 मंत्र हमने आपको बता दिए.
Yeah. No, this is very interesting. So you're absolutely right. So I was talking about a person's own vision board, but I think it's very important. Even when we talk about goal in the parlance of a person, it's important that goals are aligned to the customers, right? I mean, because we all are serving, we all are working for a certain set of people, and I think
Absolutely.
you have actually said something, spoken of something which is very important. Excellent, Harsh. So let's talk a bit about Teragni Consulting, because this is a human engagement strategy company, right? Human engagement strategy company. Would you, and of course, when we talk about engagement, we talk about both customers, which we have spoken about, and people. Would you like to say a bit about the field, the areas in which Teragni has been working? Something about the
Sure,
company.
sure. So maybe if I give examples, it'll help a little better,
Yeah.
because it's a little bit of a unique area and it's relatively new. So let me ask you a question, Arun.
I'm
Arun,
so happy. I
uh,
love people
do
who
you
ask questions. Go on, go on, go on.
do you think people make rational decisions, or do you think people make emotional decisions? What do you think?
I'll say that people, to the extent I have seen, though we all tend to portray a picture that we are all rational creatures, we are making decisions based on rationality. But what I have seen in life and career is that people make emotional decisions. And I have seen people making emotional decisions while knowing somewhere deep down in their heart that they are taking a wrong decision for the company. Still, they will take emotional decision. I'm going to come to this topic because you're talking about hiring and we are going to talk about DEI. Go on. I think let me take a pause and go. Yeah.
So, the research definitely shows that only 3 to 5% of our choices that we make, any choice. See, choice, when you make a choice, you're making a decision, whether it is wearing the same T-shirt like Steve Jobs, or you're buying a high value equipment, or you are hiring a expensive leader, or you are, making a decision whether you should go for a bell curve or not go for bell curve, right? Any choices that you make are decisions, right? And only 3 to 5% of these decisions are on, and there is enough and more research around this, by human beings. It doesn't matter whether they are in the context of employees, context of a customer, context of a husband, context of a son, daughter, whatever context, manager, team member. These only 3 to 5% decisions are based on facts and data. Rest
Absolutely.
all are non-conscious. They are
Yeah.
on deep-rooted beliefs, deep-rooted perceptions, and on emotions. So, if that is the case, when a company is selling to another company, or when a company is trying to ring fence from their competitor, if all their customer journeys, all their products and services are only addressing the rational and not the emotional, how will the company grow, or how will the company succeed in its goals? So Teragni basically helps organizations understand the human or emotional context of the choice economy. Okay, whether it is related to their employees or it is related to their customers. So when we say we work in the area of human engagement, we look at it for corporations, from their for their employees perspectives as well as from their customer perspective. So for example, when we worked with a very large bank in India, they had this problem that they had the lowest rate of interest for home loans or personal loans. Okay, but their competitor was having a better way of acquiring customers than they were. And can you believe, the only challenge that we had to that we the way we solved this problem was, said, instead of saying you charge 10.5%, you please say your EMI will be 1,300 rupees per month only for X amount of loan. This shift, okay, is contextual. You are trying to understand what is it that the person at the other end is looking for, and how are you communicating this information to them. And that insight cannot come by asking someone, hello, will you take a 8.5% loan, or will you take a 10.5% loan, or what? It will only come when you observe their behaviors. So observing behaviors and then responding to it is what Teragni does for specific business problems. So for example, we have a client who's come to us. We were working in Europe, and this is for the automotive company with financial services arm. And they were spending humongous amount of money for their country leaders to come to break into the small innovation direction. And they were not able to do that. And until we figured that trust was a big issue between inter companies, because their KPIs were structured for regional performance. Okay, they were not structured for collaborative performance. So if your KPI is not structured for collaborative performance and you want collaborative performance, you're measuring the wrong thing, you're rewarding the wrong thing. So how can a training program, or how can a fancy Harvard program shift the leader's behavior if you're fixing the wrong problem, right? So this is what we so that's what Teragni does.
Beautifully explained. That's the reason I always tell people that even Harvard program, for which a company might be paying millions of rupees, is not going to help the company if the basic foundations are not aligned. If the company's performance management system, for example, the value system, the vision of the leader, if some of these words are not only words, but these are actually the ways of living in the company, unless this happens, I think no amount of programs and trainings are going to help the company, because people will listen to the facilitator, they will attend the program for 2 days time, and then they still know in the depth of in their heart that these are the certain set of things by doing which I'm going to attain my goals or whatever.
Context is important, Daru.
Context is very important.
Context is important, and the why is important.
is very important.
I mean,
So
all
absolutely.
engineers know that, right? All manufacturing guys know the why, right? So it's
Yeah.
always the why. So context and why. If you get a fix on that, the rest is
The rest
not
becomes easy.
good.
It's very important. I think what you said is very important. I think it's all a very simple word. We have to appreciate the fact that people are not fools. They're all wise people. They know how to attain their goals. So it's very
Of
important for
course.
the organization to align the organizational purpose with their daily KPIs. And once you do that, and once you have got a system of reviewing while still smiling, while still giving a feedback, and there is a way
True.
to work with people, I think things start falling in place. And then
Right.
people will not require some of these kind of 2 days high-end kind of programs also. Of course, these are all good. I'm not
Right.
saying these are not required. Coming to some of these programs, Chiragni Insight series, first I saw. I went through your LinkedIn profile and I saw very few posts. So we are listening. Though there, I think, a series of articles which I saw. Having said that, I knew that I'm visiting the profile of somebody who actually means work, who is actually who means results, because that's also something which is coming. You are a result coach as well. I mean, these companies into this. Would you like to talk a bit about the Ravni Insight series and some of
Sure.
the programs which you have done? I think you have been
Sure.
bringing people together in some of the places
Sure.
in Pune.
Sure. Sure. Why not? So, Arun, we are at a place in our work background or environment
Yeah.
where the work that we are talking about is not known, okay, and
Mm.
not well. There's not enough information. There are not enough use cases for CHROs, CEOs, or chief marketing officers or chief strategy officers to be able to put their neck on the line for, right? So if you go to a CEO and say, by understanding emotions and behaviors, I can help you grow double in number. I can reduce your persistency rate in an insurance company where premiums are not paid by renewal, premiums are not paid customers. I can increase it by 5x, and this will be by understanding behaviors and emotions. They think we are crazy, and they think how can even this be possible, right? So when you are at a cutting edge of any field, and you are probably one of the few first trying to do something, you have to be an educator as well. So Teragni
Mm.
Insight series is the education aspect of the cutting edge work that we do in the area of behavior science, or using behavior science for business outcomes.
Mm.
And
Mm. Mm.
therefore, these are programs which are by invite and either we do it cross industry, or we do
Yeah.
it for a particular industry, depending on what the schedule is looking like or what the interest is looking like. And then we explain these different sciences, how they come together, and how they help very large brands understand how to understand their employee and how to understand their customer. So these are the learning programs, and these are pre-arranged. They are in the workshops, seminars, and variety of different kind of formats.
Mm. Very insightful, and I'm so happy, Harsh, that I invited you to be the guest in this heartfelt conversation, because I'm pretty sure that many people among audience are going to know that Peragni is not only into executive search, but the field of human engagement strategy, advisory, as well as implementation is something which is very insightful. I can actually see that you are working in a domain which is very close to my heart, and I know for sure that people keep on saying that it's all about people, it's all about people, it's all about people, because it's all about behaviors. And that's where Teragni is working. It's such an insightful field in which you are there. And people have got to appreciate that there might be people who have graduated from Harvard and IIM Ahmedabad, but unless we understand the fact that it's all emotional decision making, we'll be missing a big thing. And that's the reason many people among audience, take a pause here. If you also are one of those people who get a feeling that you have got all the best of qualifications and get best of degrees, and you are very smartly presentable, and still your career is not going, just take a pause and reflect back on some of the things which you're talking about. That's the reason people talk a lot about emotional, interpersonal relations, understanding the psychology of people, working with people, right? There are some people who are so good at inspiring people and are still getting the result from the same people, right? And there are people who will be following that rational template, which is what many people love talking about. And still they do not know how things are not happening and why things are not happening. Very insightful, Harsh. I think I'm pretty sure that I would be one of those people along with the audience, who would love to be in some of these insightful series. Amazing work. I must put my hands together. It's an
Thank
amazing
you.
thing which you're doing.
Thank you for that.
Great.
Thank you. Right.
Thanks. Most welcome. Harsh, I also see that you have got three companies. I'm going by the websites which I saw on your page.
Sure.
Teragni.in, buyerbrain.com, and marketculture.com. Would you like to say a bit about these three companies, these three
Happy
websites?
to. Very
Yeah.
happy to. Very, very happy to. So when we formed Teragni, our vision was that we have to be ahead of the curve. So when you want to be ahead of the curve, how can you alone? How is it possible to do this alone? Yeah. So we always kept our eyes and ears open to engage with global partners who thought like us and who also wanted and brought complementing capabilities. So BioBrain is the company which is based out of London and has a neuroscience lab in Bucharest. That's where, and it's led by our colleague, Dr. Anna Iorga. She's our chief neuroscientist, and she's a medical doctor, by the way, who has converted the entire learnings of how brain works into application for consumer neuroscience, using consumer neuroscience for employee, to understand employee behavior and to understand customer behavior. So that's where we are. So BioBrain is our, you could say, our it's a sister company. We have strategic investment in BioBrain. So BioBrain and come together. So that's our lab in Bucharest. And we work in Europe through BioBrain. So that's our partner.
I'm pretty sure that I'm also going to invest. I'm also going to become an investor in BioBrain by investing my time. I'm going to visit the website. It's very interesting. So customers' brain, how they look at things and how they actually think. Go on, please.
Sure. And we represent a partner called Market Culture Strategies. That's a partnership representation model. We represent them in India and kind of SAARC area. And this is for a very strong foundation on a tool called Customer Market Responsiveness Index. It is the MRI of a company as opposed to an MRI of an individual. And this is a framework that we use in all our consulting and advisory services to make organizations culturally customer centric. So how do you build a culture of customer centricity even in people who are farthest away from the customer in their day-to-day life, in their day-to-day working life? And how are different geographies, different levels in the company, different functions in the company, and different layers in the company, how do you bring them together on a common customer agenda? And how do you get the customer at the center of their decision making, even in their day-to-day tactical decision making? How do you bring that perspective in? So that's where the MRI framework helps us. So they are our partners. They are headquartered in Sydney and they have a huge setup in California. So we work with them in these two different geographies if there are reasons to collaborate. Otherwise, we represent them in India. That's the third company in the list.
The more I listen to you, Harsh, the more I am feeling grateful for the fact that you joined me. Because the way you spoke about both these companies, just look at audience, just look at the finesse of thinking which has gone behind these collaborations and working with these team members. So BioBrain is all about working at the micro level. So it's all about understanding the psychology of a buyer, a customer. Then market culture is at a macro level, right? Now let's look at the culture, how exactly a market gets shaped, because market is nothing but it's all about congregation of customers. So you are actually not leaving any area, any field. And then with this, I'm pretty sure that you are in the best position to actually work with customers and make them understand why. Instead of talking about interest rate percentage, you need to talk about something else, which actually is coming from some very in-depth research-based, outcomes, research-based work which you are doing. Awesome. I'll put my hands together because we need more of Teragnis in this world. And of course,
I'm
we
sure
shall
there,
be happy to
I'm
see
sure there will be
Teragnis.
many more. This field is just beginning to evolve, and I'm sure there will be many more.
So nice to hear that. Absolutely. First, let's change the gear a bit and let's talk about. I spoke about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So people keep on talking about this. Where since you also have been in the field of hiring professionals, let's talk about rational versus emotional. So people talk a lot about DEI. To what extent? Of course, you can say to the extent you can say, I know.
No, no,
To what extent
I'm
people
happy to be
actually are open
forthright.
for diverse people? To what extent companies are actually the best of brands in the world are actually open to get to hire people who are coming from a diverse background? And of course, we are here to talk about diversity based on thought. So we'll
Yeah,
come
yeah,
to that.
of
At
course.
the moment, let's talk about traditional, yeah, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
It's like this, it's a debate which can always have very polarizing views, Arun, right? There will be a view that will be visible when it is being spoken about in an open forum and where you want to represent yourself in a particular way, right? So organizations, there are organizations that talk about, being faithful to DEI. There are organizations who have started the journey and felt that this is the best they can do by having some ratio and proportion of gender diversity or different types of diversity
Yeah,
inclusive. And there are organizations who have decided to really take it to the last mile.
yeah,
So it's a continuum, and
very
it's
nice.
going to evolve. Now for us, we can only preach when we practice it. So we have a reverse diversity story in Teragni. There are hardly 3 or 4 guys. The rest are all women of all
Okay,
ages, walks of life, of all thought processes, cultures, geographies, you name it. We are all different and all ages as well. So we are on 99.95% we are women, 0.05% are men. So when somebody tells me to practice diversity or say that it is difficult to have gender diverse employees, I mean, I have our own case study to share. So having said that, I I believe that we are in the right direction for diversity. Fundament, and
beautiful.
whether we like it or not, women are smarter than men nowadays. Girls are smarter than boys. If you look at, if you send and I'm not saying it because I'm biased, and I'm, by the way, I'm not a feminist, and I truly believe that a woman does not empower herself and does not use the empowerment that is available to her. So I think women are a culprit. I don't think others, and neither do I think men are a culprit, nor do I think organizations are a culprit. I think we are not there ourselves, right? And we are not taking responsibility for our choices and seek them through. So that's my view. But having said that, I have seen a very increase last 5 years, especially.
Yeah,
COVID changed the whole dimension. COVID and working hybrid, etc., brought
yeah,
so many women back into the workforce, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I think that is changing the game slowly and slowly. It's
Hmm.
however, I need to bring in an element over here, and that's I say that with sadness. So we do a lot of work because I said we look at emotional drivers, right? Emotional barriers and emotional drivers of any kind of engagement.
Yeah, yeah,
One of the places that we used our framework was for understanding the biases that exist in
yeah,
people, in managers.
yeah.
So, and we had some very deep rooted conversations. So, there is a humongous bias toward um, complacency, okay, and readiness. Now, you look at it this way. I am a company which wants to grow multifold. So I want ready people in every job role, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't have time to invest in their training, and I don't have the time to, because if I'm a listed company, I'm monitored monthly, quarterly on my numbers. So I have
Yeah,
a huge pressure there.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
if then I have talent, which is the nature of talent that is available in the industry and the kind of skill set that I need, there's a mismatch there. So I don't get enough talent right any which way, right? I'm fighting for the same talent, right? And over and above that, you are enforcing me with further diversity perspectives and asking me to take that responsibility within myself. So unless I'm an organization which has a lot of bench strength or a lot of flab where I can, spread it out. If I'm a lean, mean player, I don't have the wherewithal to work on diversity.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Beautiful.
look at the dichotomy, right? I want to grow, I want to do this, but I want to grow it at a pace which is faster than even my own mind can think of. And then
Yeah.
I don't have time to do. So if I have to pause myself and if I have to say, okay, I sacrifice growth, I sacrifice super high performance,
Yeah.
I sacrifice readiness for potential,
Yeah.
then we are talking diversity. Because
Mm.
when we do that, and sacrifice is not permanent sacrifice. No, sacrifice is in the short term.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we are ready to take a short term hit for a long term objective, diversity will happen. If
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't do that, it will not happen. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's and
Very
then
nicely explained.
yeah,
Very
and
nicely explained.
another piece, no, Arun, we have it's a choice that we make again. Are we only going to look at the problems or are we also going to look at the solutions? So if you're going
Mm.
to be
Mm.
problem focused, you will never be diversity focused. If you're solution focused, you will find a solution when you reach that problem and you will fix it, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
solutions
Yeah.
are possible. So how are you? How
Very
much are you?
nice.
So I think it's a journey,
Yeah.
and in some organizations it is better than others. Uh,
Mm. Mm.
and it's the same way, no? Startups, how many young kids started their own company
Mm.
the right out of college? And today, look at the number of startups there. So
Things are changing. Things are changing.
it'll grow. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think the way you said, no, it's all a continuum. So I think that explains. So I've got a very pointed question now, and then we shall talk about your views on, or maybe your experiences on looking for what kind of talents you look for while hiring people and while. So
Sure.
we shall have some discussion around that conversation. Before that, suppose there is a situation. So we have got two talents, two people for a specific position, person A and person B. Person A is brighter than person B, but person A is a person who speaks up. He may be a diverse candidate from based on thought. He is a person who is going to question, maybe politely, maybe smilingly, but still he's going to question some of these things. Person B is good, but he is a person who is mild. He is not a person who is going to rock the boat too often. Okay. Now you have exposed both the candidates across the leadership team of the hiring company. What is the chance that person A, despite being more meritorious, be selected by the company? It's a hypothetical question, but I just wanted your ideas because people talk a lot about, nowadays many people talk about a speak up culture. Let's just voice our opinion, voice, and a lot of, you see logos and all that. But to what extent are companies are opening up to people who actually do, they are talented and they also speak up? Diversity based on thoughts.
Very hard question to answer because it's not a generic question, right? It is so contextual to the reporting leader. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
right. So I'll share just few examples that come to my mind when you ask me
Yeah.
this question. I work with an organization which is a tools manufacturing company. It
Okay.
makes
Okay.
different types of tools, but it decided to go and become a software-led organization in the last 10 years. So from a physical product company only, they decided that software would be their competitive differentiator.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in a brick and mortar context, they operated from a space of product superiority, all right, or
Mm-hmm.
service superiority. And
Yeah.
they chose a model of direct to customer instead of any channel partner,
Yeah.
and with only one agenda in mind, that I should get the deepest customer insight I ever want,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
when they decided to go using the software as a competitive differentiator as a strategy, the game changed completely because, and they chose India as their software hub, as their software
Mm.
the core product design and development hub. Okay. So they didn't leave it somewhere in the European region or in the US region. They got all the brightest minds here, right?
Yeah.
How many software leaders that you can go and find who are sitting in India and who think and understand the context of the end customer or end user, okay, and have the ability to say to their internal organization that this will sell, this will not sell, I will not do it because it will fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are not
Yeah.
customer facing, you are not in the field. Where will
Right.
you get leader like this in the software sector?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you do now? So imagine trying to find a person like this for an organization which says that speak up so that we don't make a mistake in the field,
Mistake. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they are looking for leaders. So this is a client who's, so if your example I was to use in this client's case, they will only take the person who will question the status quo. Okay. Now I have a completely different customer. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a company which has been, it's a multinational, it has been in India for more than 100 years. Okay. It's a global multinational, but in India, it is run like a owner-driven company. The CEO and managing director is the owner of the company. He doesn't give a damn about anybody else's opinion. He says, my way or the highway. I will only hire someone who will follow my path because I know the path. I know how to get there. I have enough experience to take you there. So you just have to follow me. तो वहां पे तो भाई साहब वो पहले वाले तो नहीं
बिल्कुल
आएंगे.
बिल्कुल सही है, बिल्कुल सही है हर्ष. और I can tell you based on my experience, because I keep on talking to many people as a part of coaching and otherwise as well. There are many MNCs, multinational companies, which have got their roots in some of the most developed countries, and they are still in India. When it comes to India, I mean, it all depends on one guy, one person who makes all the change, be it Gandhiji, be it Lincoln, be it MD. Anyway, I'm saying this with humility while keeping my hands folded. I know that it's a difficult question to answer, because we also spoke about the fact that 3 to 4% people are actually taking rational decisions. So I think this again gets connected. So now coming to some very early basic questions for you, because we are talking to somebody who is very intellectually, very, very inspiring. I can see that. Very basic questions for you, because I'm feeling a little humbled while asking these questions. Which are some of those qualities which you look for while hiring people? I know it's a contextual question, but generally speaking, do you look for some qualities? Do you feel that?
Of course.
Yeah.
We also have our own biases, right? We're also human beings. Even though we operate in the area of behavior science, we have to consciously remind ourselves that we are now taking a biased decision. So we need to be cognizant of it. So we are all human beings, right? So we do that. There are I can only share with you my mantra. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it is super important in a leader that the leader has a listening ear. Okay. In leadership roles, I look for a deep listening ear. Okay. And the second piece I look for, and this has become more required of late, is compassionate empathy. Now, people think of empathy as, a touchy-feely topic. There are 3 different types of empathies. I'm talking of empathy where you resonate with the person's pain point. You are able to explain to the person what you can do about it, and you take action on it. So that's compassionate empathy. I'm not talking about the feel good empathy. I'm not talking about the lip service at all. I'm talking about resonating, understanding, and taking action on it. So for me, a leader with compassionate empathy is super critical in today's context. So listening, compassionate empathy. And the third thing is a decisive leader. So there will always be ups and downs. There will always be opinions. There will always be something that will go right and something that, but a decisive leader. Okay. Now my list is long, but I'll stop here. So listening, compassionate empathy, and decisive leader for me are super critical in a leadership context.
Very important, Harsh.
Yeah. Rest all of it, I would then give way high weightage to a company's culture and their context. So I'll bring in the weightages and elements from there. But for me, these three things are keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, eyes open, open your mouth for delivering action, and be decisive in your
Very,
approach.
very, very important, because in the backdrop audience, you can see the customer, there is a word customer. I think the whole set of foundations on which Teragni Consulting Private Limited has been designed is all about listening, is all about customers, is all about what is important for the people for whom we are working, which is very important. That's the reason you also brought this customer piece while talking about vision board. Very interesting, very insightful, Harsh. And you also spoke about three different types of empathy. So one is compassionate empathy. While listening to this, I have already got the title of this conversation video, compassionate empathy. This is one of the fitting titles. Would you also like to talk about the other two types of empathy, so that for the sake of audience?
So cognitive empathy is when you talk about a situation and say, I I understand, I can see you are in pain, and I can feel, you are in pain, right?
Yeah.
And and sorry to put you in this pain. If it is those call centers and help desks and tech service centers, etc. So they say, we are really sorry for your inconvenience. We are sorry, but can you repeat whatever you repeated to 10 other guys before me? But I am so sorry. That is cognitive empathy.
Empathy.
Emotional empathy is when the same guys come and say, I can feel your pain, but
Yeah.
sorry, I can't do a shit about it. Sorry. So that is emotional empathy, right? So when you go to a doctor, he will say, okay, you are unwell. I can see you are unwell. The nurse says, तुमको इतना दर्द होने ही वाला है, तो हो दे, I can feel your pain, but live with the pain, boss. Your problem, right? That's emotional empathy. So,
Yeah,
and I already,
very, very interesting. Very interesting. I think, of course, we're talking about three different types of empathy. We also know that there are many people who actually do not have any of the three types of empathy. I think that let's not talk about that, but I think that's the
okay.
reality in many cases, many areas.
then
But
then
having
we're
said that,
talking about the devil.
so let's not get into that. But having said that, thank you so much for talking about the three different types of empathy. And audience, let's this is a pause moment. Pause the video, take a deep breath in, and think about: are you also empathetic? That's the first question. Number two, if answer is yes, then which of the three types of empathy you feel most connected with? Thank you so much, Harsh. Harsh, I'm pretty sure that you also might be working with different generations, people from millennial and new generation people. Though I know that you are mostly hiring people at CXOs and CEOs level. Having said that, would you like to share some word of advice for the youngsters who are actually shaping the future of this world? You spoke about, new age startups and some of these things. So, which would be some of the some of the points of wisdom or whatever advice which you would like to share, if at all you want to share with youngsters? Because social media distractions and a lot of things are happening. Something which you would like to share.
I will go back to my model of Heike Brook and Shumantran Khoshal. Stay focused, stay energetic.
Wow. Wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. So focus is very important, friends. I have been creating a lot of videos. I know how important it is to maintain focus, because people can't maintain focus beyond a few seconds. And we are talking about podcasts like, this. Of course, I think this is for a very sincere audience. So focus is very important. Actually, I do a program, Harsh, in the morning as between 5:30 to 6:30 for corporate people. The idea is just to help them with building focus, which is so important in today's times. Because once we build focus, we know that we can actually get better and we can be the best in just a few fields. So it's very important for
Yeah.
us to stay focused. Number two, energy. I think we all know it's very important. And while listening to her say you, I think we can feel that energy, coming out of this laptop. So this is so good. Harsh, now let's talk a bit about some people, some personalities who inspire you, some books or some videos which you'd like to share for the benefit of audience.
So what I'll do is now that you have reminded me that I don't post enough, I will do that over LinkedIn, and people can look at my inspiring videos and activities there. But who has inspired me? You started this conversation by saying that everybody has something to offer, and I didn't know that statement of yours until you opened the dialogue. that's my I learn from my instant surroundings and people whom I interact with much more than my learning does not come from reading books or watching inspirational videos or reading autobiographies. I really learn a lot from the people who are around me, and it can my maid has taught me value of you know being there, or dridta, I don't know, I'm not getting the English word for it right now, but apne dridta apne andar, and how to stay put on that path. my
Yeah,
maid
correct.
my my maid has taught me. My
Mm.
husband has taught me power of perspectives, how to accept different perspectives. My father has taught me loyalty. My mother has taught me service. If I'm
Wow.
service oriented, it's because of my mother. My brother has taught me detail orientation and kida, how to get to the
Mm.
whatever. And I mean, there are so many people I meet on an everyday basis and in every interaction, I ask myself, what did I learn from this individual? What did I learn about this individual? And what did I learn from this individual, which is very valuable to me? This is how
Mm.
I learn. So I don't have an exotic answer.
Very, no, no, this is one of the most exotic answers which I've ever heard. When I wrote my first book, so I wrote this, you spoke about perspective, which is one of the words which is spoke about. University is the mother of transformation. It's all a matter of the dristikon. देखने का नजरिया बहुत important है. And then when I wrote one, which is not here, the Strawberry Farm, it's all about a person who loses everything in life during the days of pandemic. He goes to a little hill station which was inspired from Panchgani. He goes and he has got some good times. He had built a small cottage which is locked. He goes and opens the door and then he starts living there. There is no coach, but he starts learning from nature, from sunrise, from every boarding schools, from whatever is written outside boarding schools, from people. And as you rightly said, mates. Of course, I think we can learn if you have got the learning ability and mindset of a learner. We do not require a book. Despite having written books, I always tell people if you just activate this mindset of being a learner, the entire world becomes your university. So actually, I deliver some talks, some sessions. The topic is the university of the universe. The entire world is there to teach you. It's just we who are
Absolutely.
not learning. We are not learning. Actually, on my LinkedIn page, there is one post which talks about a book which I have written, on which the first chapter is dedicated to the housekeeping supervisor in Tata Blissful Steel, because to me he's one of the most disciplined people. He beats people with white shirt and ties and blazers hands down. Not a single day I have seen him being late. I'm talking about many years of working. So then actually I invited him. I wrote a chapter. I gifted a book to him. And still this person is not nowhere there in limelight. He just received the book and thank you so much, sir. And then he's nowhere there. He's just working. Just imagine the kind of value that this person has, and we keep on talking about this and that value, and still you said very important, very nicely you said, very importantly you spoke about compassionate empathy. These are the people, and he is there as a solution provider to any person in the office throughout the office hours, even beyond office hours, or whoever is looking for a solution, he is there, not only in the field of housekeeping but also beyond housekeeping. That is, I think, something
The
called,
way you think, it's your
yeah,
mindset, right?
mindset.
It's your mindset.
Absolutely. Great.
Yeah.
So, Harsh, we didn't even know. It's more than 1 hour. And I now it's time for me to ask you the signature question. If you write a book on the life and journey of Harsh, what could be the title of the book?
Joyful always.
Joyful always. Amazing, Harsh. You have given me the second title for this heart to heart conversation video. I'm so happy to host you, Harsh. Thank you so much for making your time on a weekday in the evening hours. And I think it was one of the most insightful conversations that I ever have
Really?
had. Absolutely.
My God.
And and some of the work which you are doing, some of the work which Teragni is doing, is something I think which I could connect with everything which you said. So wishing all the best, Harsh, to you and your team, and keep the series of these insight series on. And I'm looking
Sure.
forward to joining some of these sessions along with, I'm pretty sure, many people from the
Absolutely.
audience. From the
Thank you.
audience. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having me over. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you
Thank you
to
so
you.
much. I wish
Okay.
a lot of growth to Teragni. And I think when I met you last time, you had one office in Pune. Now you have got two offices in Pune. And I'm pretty sure by the time I host you once again in yet another heart-to-heart conversation, you would have even more offices and people and growth. And thank you so much for this. Thank
I
you.
appreciate your good wishes. I accept them with great interest and humility. And thank you so much. You have a wonderful weekend and the rest of the week as well. And have a good time. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye. And all the best
Thank
to
you.
you too.